Hey, how's it going YouTube? This is your boy Chosen, and today we got an interesting one. With the Isshiki invasion arc practically being over, I do believe next chapter will be one of the last ones before the time skip. The clear threat that was presented to us in the story moving forward is Code, which is a video I'll be making tomorrow, but with the threat already presented to us, I think all they really need to do is wrap up this arc completely in the next chapter or the one after before the time skip. So with that said, today I just wanted to go over and basically reflect. That's all today's video is. No theories or nothing. I just wanted to bring in some points that I think a few people seem to let pass by their heads. And that's Sasuke Uchiha's unrealized impact in the defeat of Kara. Two things, however, before we really start. One, I know Kara technically isn't defeated as there are two remaining members still alive. And to be fair, the goal of that group is still in effect. In short, the plan for Isshiki was to eventually suck the planet dry as he keeps harvesting a fruit planet by planet and would eventually grant him enough power to become a legitimate god. Like a literal god. So yes, despite things not going Ishiki's way, the end goal of the plan hasn't really changed. It's just instead of Isshiki himself aiming to become a god, he passed down his will to Code to continue the way of the clan. And two, when I say impact, obviously I'm not referring to major ones. Sasuke hasn't faced off against any Kara member besides Jigen so far. I still have my hopes for a Sasuke versus Code battle, but the only member he's really faced off against was Isshiki, and even then his battle impact wasn't nearly as great as Naruto's. Clearly, what I'm trying to say is that Sasuke obviously wasn't the major reason for their defeat, but the small things he's done here and there was able to set up these major factors from even happening in the first place. In basketball terms, think of it like Sasuke being the one who threw the lob, not the one throwing it down. The very first point we are going to start with, which everyone already knows of, is Sasuke forcing shojoji to reveal the Kara organization to Konoha. I wouldn't even really say this was forced. All Sasuke did was show him his rinnegan and the man was shook. I mean, in his case, to be fair, I would too, knowing the full power of that eye, but regardless, this was Kara's introduction to the series. And you could say that this was probably one of, if not, the most important things Sasuke has done. You could also make the claim that shojoji would have eventually talked, but him basically being a Dark Lord, someone who freely kills like it's nothing, I don't think it would have been that easy and probably wouldn't have been as soon as the world needed to know about this organization. And one thing I forgot to mention, he also mentioned a connection between Boruto's mark and Kara, as he said he's seen Kara observe many marks like his. This information was certainly big enough for Sasuke and Sai to pursue the group, and if you think about it, Sasuke knew the mark Boruto had was from Momoshiki in some way, as he not only received it after killing him, but Sasuke also saw the entire exchange between the two. So the moment Shojoji revealed this, he knew more than anyone that this was serious, not some low-level group like the Mujino Bandits. There's clearly an Otsutsuki connection with this group, so he needed to look into it, which then takes us to Boruto chapter 35, where he found the 10 tails and uncovered more knowledge on the clan. Now this wasn't necessarily all Sasuke is doing. The information he needed in order to even travel to this place was accessible due to the data Konohamaru took from the container, which was also intended for Konoha to find, so I can't give him full credit here, but nonetheless, this was still more him than anyone else, as literally nobody in the series who was on the side of Konoha at the time could access space-time ninjutsu like him. It was still revealed to the team later by a model, so the significance was kind of brought down, but regardless, knowing where this time-space is still very important, as this 10 tails is still playing a major threat literally from chapter 35 onwards to the time skip. Knowing where the beast is located, a creature that possesses a threat to take out the entire human race, is going to be key if they decide to make a push for it. I know Sasuke can't use space-time ninjutsu, but Boruto can. And who better to help him master this ability than his sensei who prior had already mastered it himself. And then we have the Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen battle. Obviously to start, Sasuke being there to stop Jigen from going back was important in two small ways. One, nobody in Konoha is even close enough to beat Jigen in a fight. So if he did leave Naruto in that dimension and went after Kawaki, I mean, that's game over. Not on Naruto's part, since he and Sasuke are linked through 6 paths, so he could have just picked Naruto up afterwards. But if a healthy Jigen went over and snatched up Kawaki without Konoha knowing where their base is located at, Kara wins. Kashin Koji isn't doing shit because, like I just said, Jigen would have been at 100% of power. Whereas when Koji killed them, it was only due to Jigen being at 10% and not knowing how one of his abilities worked. Yes, the fight between Naruto, Sasuke, and Jigen was one-sided, but forcing Jigen to waste all that power, being in a weakened state, opened up the room for Koji to bring forth Isshiki, ridding of the Karma Seal on Kawaki. And just like that, those are two ways Sasuke, whether you want to see it as intentional or not, set up Jigen's failure. May not have been the one to take Isshiki out of Jigen, but he helped avoid Kawaki's capture and played a part in setting up Jigen's death through Kashinkoji. Now this doesn't relate to any impact Sasuke had, but this is still relevant to the points I'm coming across of, and that's the conversation that took place in the beginning of chapter 38, and that's when Sasuke was spilling all the information he gathered from that dimension where the Ten Tails was located and basically uncovered Jigen's plan. Chapter prior, Jigen commended Sasuke for his fighting style and posed him to be the bigger threat between the two. Now after hearing Sasuke just figured out his plan after already being impressed with him, this is when I'm sure Jigen knew Sasuke was a real threat. I don't think in chapter 37 he found Sasuke to be much of a problem. Yes, he did give him praise, but I think he just meant between Naruto and Sasuke, Sasuke is the one he needed to take out first, as it would have been easier afterwards. And another thing some people need to understand is that Code was sent to guard the Ten Tails because of Sasuke. During Boro's battle with Team 7, Jigen states that he hasn't heard from Boro, meaning it could be Sasuke who came back to save Naruto, and tells Code not to move from his post in case Boro failed, and Sasuke heads there next. Sasuke revealing Jigen's plan obviously caused him to be more cautious moving forward. And the last point I want to come across is basically the event of the most recent arc, from chapter 49 onwards. You can make the claim that Sasuke's plan to take isshiki out of Konoha was easily one of the biggest factors in setting up his defeat. Because if this battle took place in Konoha, the team's chances of losing were definitely higher, as both Naruto and Sasuke wouldn't have been able to go all out. Just the fact that Kurama had to lie to Naruto about Baryon mode because he knew Naruto wouldn't have gone along with it? Like, imagine his family. The damage Naruto and Isshiki would have done in the village would have been insane. So Naruto most likely would have rejected this offer even if Kurama still lied to him. And let's be honest, Baryon mode is the main reason as to why Isshiki even lost in the first place. That mode needed to happen for them to win. There was no other way. This is what I mean by small impacts. Sasuke wasn't the one who defeated Isshiki. Hell, he barely did anything that fight. But coming up with the plan to take Isshiki out of Konoha, which set up the option for Naruto to use Baryon mode, Sasuke threw the lob, Naruto caught it. Now obviously we all know Sasuke took some embarrassing beatings in this fight, but there were also two things he's done that, even though it seemed like it wasn't a big deal, ultimately led to their complete victory. The first thing is Sasuke freeing Kawaki from Ishiki's grasp just as he was about to place a karma mark on him. Left a scientific smoke bomb on the ground for Kawaki to use, which basically cancels out the Byakugan's sight, allowing Kawaki to escape. Now of course, despite this, Kawaki still came back, although it wasn't in a way that we thought. Due to Kawaki's ninjutsu training that Isshiki wasn't aware of, Kawaki was able to trick Isshiki in placing a karma mark on a shadow clone, which in the end resulted in him running out of time and dying. So no matter what way you look at it, whether Kawaki came back or not, the moment Sasuke switched places with Kawaki, it was over. In my opinion, that was the game-breaking deciding factor. I'm not gonna take away the epic moment Kawaki just had though. He's technically speaking the one that got the last laugh, as it should have been. But like I've been saying, this major part in the chapter would not have been possible had it not been for Sasuke. And the last point I want to bring up is Sasuke figuring out how Boroshiki exactly works. For Momoshiki to appear, Boruto has to be in a state to where he falls unconscious due to lack of chakra. So in other words, for Boruto to then regain back his body, Momoshiki must be forced into a position to where he is absorbing the chakra that Boruto lacked. This was, as you all know, figured out by Sasuke, and the main reason as to why the team was able to even survive that short battle. Yes, don't get me wrong, Sasuke and Kawaki together, if they fought Boroshiki to the death, probably would have done some major damage, as said by Boroshiki. But realistically, even when figuring out how it all worked, Sasuke was still knocked down and unable to move for the time being, and Kawaki was forced to try to kill himself in order to put Momoshiki into a position to where he rather gives up his only sacrifice so that he stays in control, or saves Kawaki but essentially gives Boruto back his body. Imagine how bad it would have been for them if Sasuke had not figured this out. And that's that, for now at least. These small things that I've listed are all impactful in Kara's original plan, fumbling. I know there's gonna be those who are like, oh, this is such a stretch. Sasuke didn't even fight any of the Kara members. I understand. For the last time, I'm fully aware that these are not super major impactful situations. The one thing you cannot deny is these small things that not a lot of people seem to really look into did in fact set up so many opportunities to damage the plan of the organization as a whole. Whether it's knowing about the locations of the Ten Tails, weakening Jigen, allowing Kawaki to escape from Isshiki as his last seconds were counting down. All these situations were pretty important in why the team was in the end able to return back home and breathe a sigh of relief. But anyways guys, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, I'd very much appreciate a like and a sub if you're new. Let me know how you guys felt about Sasuke's many small impacts in the comments down below, and I'll catch you on the next one.